When you finish a level in Quake, you see an intermission screen like this one, showing your stats for the level, the time taken, the number of kills, and the number of secrets. The interesting thing about these intermissions is that the map is still active. You're looking at the level as it was when you finished it, and all of the entities are still loaded. So if you left any enemies alive, then you might still see them wandering around. Or if you had activated a door or a platform, then you might possibly still see it moving. Speedrunners worked out quite early on that it was possible to interact with the map and the enemies after you had exited the level and after the clock had stopped. For example, on E2M2, there's a fiend in the water below these platforms. If you fire a bunch of grenades, you can get lucky and kill it without having to see it or take a detour down there. On E1M3, you can just see the final grenade being fired a split second before exiting the map, and the kill count ticks up immediately afterwards. Or this is one of my favorite examples, on E2M1, you can fire 2 grenades, one here and another one just as you exit the level. Once you see the intermission screen, the second grenade you fired hits the enforcer directly, and then you can see the first grenade you fired exploding about a second later, which takes out a different enforcer. You can see the explosion on the left. This all happens within the space of a few seconds, and it's a very precise sequence at the end of a run with a lot of crazy movement and tricks. You can also see it in a couple of demos with the nail gun, where the last couple of nails are still moving through the air when you exit, and they hit the last enemy during the intermission. These tricks are pretty cool, but then in 2001, Peter Horvath, or he's Hungarian, so maybe it's Horvat, I don't know. This might be a recurring theme in these videos where I don't know how to pronounce European surnames. But anyway, Peter discovered a really strange bug with the nail gun and the intermission screens. If you hold down the shoot button with a nail gun equipped as you're exiting a level, the game keeps on shooting nails from the center of the intermission screen. And these work completely like regular nails. So in this run, he was able to skip a certain enemy and then take it out after the level had finished. This was a pretty revolutionary trick. On some maps, people were then able to completely redesign the route. If an intermission screen showed an area of the map that only had a small number of enemies, then you could potentially skip that whole area during a run and grab the last couple of kills with the nail gun. There are a couple of things that make this trick harder than it looks. The main problem and the main source of pain for speedrunners is the fact that the majority of the original levels have 4 possible intermission screens, and these are chosen completely randomly. So if you want to include the nail gun trick in your run, then you have no choice but to grind it out until you get the screen you want. And when the runs themselves are as optimized as they are these days, it's pretty tough to have to do everything perfectly, only for there to be a 75% chance that your run fails due to the wrong intermission screen. The actual mechanics of the bug are also a little bit weird, and aiming with the nail gun is quite strange. The screen stays locked in place, but you can move the mouse around and aim the nail gun anywhere in your field of view. But you don't have a crosshair, and you can only really line up your shots visually using the other nails on the screen, the ones you've previously fired. It's just another mechanic in the game where you have to learn how it feels by trying it a bunch of times. The other main problem is that you can only fire a maximum of 14 shots with either the normal or the super nail gun. If you hold down the fire button any longer, you'll jump straight to the next map. And if this happens, the last few nails you fired won't have time to reach their targets. So you need to let go of the mouse button at an extremely specific time if you want to land the maximum number of shots. Some demos make full use of the available shots. On this single-player remake of the famous DM4 deathmatch map, here you can take down a full health ogre and a shambler with 13 shots on easy skill. And on nightmare skill, this demo has what I think is the maximum possible damage output for an intermission screen. It's 14 quad damage super nailgun shots, which all hit their targets. There's one exception to the 14 shot rule. The very last map in the game doesn't link to a new map, so there you can keep firing until you run out of nails. There's also a beta version of the final Quake map where the same rule applies. Here you can exit the level very quickly and then just take your time and slowly clear out an entire room of enemies with the nail gun. Just as an extra bonus, there are also a couple of other ways to get additional kills after a run has ended. For example, on this custom map, there's a kind of booby trap on the floor which slides back and forth along the ground. If you wait long enough, it will eventually take out any enemies on the floor, and that's what happens in this demo. And this last one always makes me laugh. This is from the first map of the Terror episode by CZG. It has a floating platform which moves around in a loop. If you're patient enough, eventually all the enemies will wander into its path and get crushed. But this takes a really long time. Here, Thomas finishes the level quickly and then just leaves the map running. I don't know, maybe he makes himself dinner or a coffee. And about 20 minutes later, the platform has crushed all the enemies. Another thing that could potentially happen would be if two enemies were fighting each other as you exited the map. If they both landed the final blow at the same time, then you could theoretically avoid taking them out yourself. But as far as I know, this hasn't happened in a run yet. So that's it for this video. Thanks for the nice feedback so far. As usual, the standard YouTube cliches apply. If you want to see some more videos, then feel free to subscribe, and that way you'll get a notification when I upload the next one. Thanks, and see you later.